People assume the scary moments are best left to horror games, but really, this shouldn't be the case. Sometimes horror is much more effective in surroundings that inspire a safer, action-based experience to wrap a player in, enveloping you up like a soft tortilla as you happily adventure through lovely, whimsical lands.
I am the bad taste of Ash from What Culture Horror,
and these are some of the 10 most terrifying moments in non-horror video games. 10. Boy of Silence. BIOSHOCK Infinite. This part of the game starts off creepily enough, introducing a shadowy alternate timeline and the Boys of Silence, guys with massive metal heads that screech when you come into their limited field of vision, forcing you to sneak past them. The most notable moment with these shrieking ball bags is when one turns up directly behind you after interacting with a console, launching your soul a good 10 meters out of your butthole before returning back for safekeeping. The rest of the game is sunlight and beautiful colours, and not much like the superior original. However, you can't begrudge this segment of the game for really cranking it up to try and match it. 9. The Meat King's Party. HITMAN Contracts. As professional Hitman 47 lies dying and reminiscing on his past contracts, you're plonked into a bondage, fetish, BDSM, whatever tickles your pickle really, opium-fueled rave inside a meat factory, with plenty of people doing the do beside blood splatters and chunks of meat, but hey, we're not here to kink shame. Of course, 47 is mentally returned here for a reason, and your target to kill this time is an uncomfortably fat pale bloke who's kidnapped the client's daughter. It's soon a case of recovering evidence of the missing girl behind the scenes of the sexy meat locker mashup, with the hunt turning out far more horror story than any other part of the game. Discovering her a little bit dead, the victim has had her eyes gouged out and her arm lopped off for good measure. And you only find that out after taking out the nutcase that did it, watching him dance around to the radio with his trusty cleaver in his blood-soaked den. This whole flashback is just one thing after another really, like geez, gosh. 8. The Flood's Arrival. Halo Combat Evolved. Certainly much less effective now we're used to them. When they first appeared, nothing prepared you for exactly what was coming, aside some mild chatter now and then about something the Covenant were afraid of. The ending lets you know why. Watching a found footage video from a soldier's perspective of the Flood tearing their squad apart, it ends when you realise you're right in the middle of it. Oh, fuck. The infector forms burst in and surround you, attempting to chow down on your armour, then combat forms arrive as they leap in to beat the hell out of you. Then there's fat, pudgy carrier forms that pop like unstable balloons, filling the area with more infectors. Oh jeez, keep them coming guys. It was enough to put you off your food back in the good olden days of 2001. 7. RAVENHOLM, Half-Life 2. They always said don't go to RAVENHOLM. So what happened? We went to RAVENHOLM, of course. Well, turns out it's pretty abandoned. Oh, except for the large infestation of headcrab zombies that's more than you fought in the whole game so far, just in case you convinced yourself that you were desensitized to them and could happily cope from here on out. Leftover corpses, traps, and fire scatter the level, combined with areas shrouded in darkness that have good old friendly zombies waiting for you. If you didn't save plenty of bullets or at the very least get well versed with the gravity gun, you're in for a bad time. Half-Life certainly isn't a survival horror game, but for this one level, it becomes one. 6. Nightmare Levels, Max Payne. Max Payne is heavily steeped in pathos, cynicism, and is, quite literally, dark. It is in essence an exploration of Max's suffering, as well as the negative aspects of the human condition. In short, maybe we all should have really expected this. We already knew that Max is a mentally broken man, but here we get a clear insight into his clouded mind, and it's like Walmart on a Black Friday. There are rooms filled with blood, with trails of it leading out into bottomless chasms. The sound effects are unsettling, featuring Max's wife sobbing, Wilhelm screams, and crying babies. And the whole experience captures the canny, yet ethereal quality of lucid dreaming rather well. I would hate to imagine what this man daydreams about. It's a real messed up window to gaze through into Max's psyche. 5. The Sorrow, Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater. Kojima is no stranger to injecting horror moments into his Metal Gear series. See the Grey Fox Corpse Corridor in 1 and the Quarantine and Devil's House levels in 5. The Sorrow boss fight, however, is arguably the best of them all. Snake finds himself in an alternate version of the rivers he had originally grown accustomed to, now with the Sorrow floating in front of him and rain and fog battering the land. What follows is a tragic, soul-crushing walk down memory lane. I'm doing air quotes. It's memory lane quite literally. forcing the player to witness literally each and every one of the enemies you decided to kill, including bosses. As they walk by, they torment and condemn you, and yes, sometimes it's a little goofy, but that's a small 10% of it as you're forced to confront men with families blaming you, the player. They hate you big old murderous scumbag. You thought this was a game? It's never just a game. 4. Bottom of the Well. Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. From an outsider's perspective, Legend of Zelda looks very much like a kid's game. But what kid, what young child, what innocent babe of tomorrow could deal with the bottom of the well? They're without a doubt the most pant-wetting sections of Ocarina of Time, which surprisingly take place in the homely Kakariko village. The bottom of the well section is clearly an ancient prison or torture dungeon containing a St. Andrew's cross covered in blood and chains, skulls and skeletons littering the rooms and prison cells, and trick floors. There's a strong implication that the place is full of tortured spirits, which Link is able to hear. If the ambience wasn't already terrifying enough, you then encounter Dead Hand. Just the name is creepy, come on. 3. SHALEBRIDGE Cradle. Thief, Deadly Shadows. The history of SHALEBRIDGE Cradle is already dark and twisted enough to scare the beard off of Action Hank. It started out as an orphanage, check, before becoming an insane asylum/orphanage, check again, where horrific experiments were carried out on the inmates. That's a perfect trifecta. So essentially, you're being asked to explore a creepy, abandoned building that has haunted written all over it. As you progress, the level becomes increasingly horrific as you encounter the inhabitants of the Cradle, the repugnant, mutilated former asylum patients, and the ghosts of the staff, and are forced to realise that the building has some sort of sentient presence that is somehow aware of your being there. But the crowning moment of disturbing comes when you have to pretend to kill yourself by jumping out of the window. That's the only way you can escape the evil machinations of the Cradle, which is something of a metaphor for modern life, really. 2. The Crawler. Fable 3. You'd think Fable 3 is just too generic low fantasy to be anything close to creepy, but that all changes when the player visits Aurora. This eldritch abomination is the Crawler, the primary antagonist for the second half of Fable 3. Your character ends up stranded on a desert island and is forced to travel through a rather ominous cavern, introducing a build-up to encounter the Crawler, which is fairly atmospheric. When you actually do encounter the creature, it's a completely different kettle of fish to the game's usual gallery of light-hearted monsters. Whilst at worst, those guys might savagely mock the protagonist, the Crawler's dialogue is extremely grim and more psychological in nature. For example, the light you bring will die, the light inside you will die, all that you are will die, and we will snuff out every last light, smother every breath from every mouth, and stop the beating of every heart. Well, someone isn't very happy then, are they? 1. GIYGAS, Earthbound. What in the hell is this? Why did this happen? How did I get here? A boss fight where you have zero comprehension of what it actually is. Considering GIYGAS' conception comes from things such as murder and rape according to the game designer, it's best to keep his appearance the way it is, and that is obscure. The other side of that, however, is that it leaves it up to our imagination, which I'm almost certain is not a good thing. Previously talking about games that unexpectedly shift tone, Earthbound is arguably the greatest offender of this. Colourful, childlike sprites with turn-based combat manifested itself into a crimson, nightmarish hell with echoes of fetuses and various other theories. No change to the combat though, which is your only saving grace in this battle.
And that's our list. I've been Ash over on social media at Ash Millman, and this has been What Culture. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and come back again soon for some more spine-tingling horror content. Thanks for watching.